Tobias Ellwood. Tobias, before this announcement came, were you expecting it? Were you surprised by what happened today?
Not surprised at all when you analyse this. There are only two real opportunities to go to the election, to go take this to the nation before December. You wouldn't go around Christmas time, that would be wrong. So you then have November or you then have July. You have the either side of the summer. And it's very clear, a point I made in the chamber, that you cannot have Great Britain and the United States both looking inwards, both internally involved, domestically focused, going to the polls. That would offer an opportunity to our adversaries, our competitors, to do something very, very serious indeed. So given the American election is fixed in the earlier November, it then became the obvious date of July.
So you think he was, as it were, doing the higher thing, the higher good, rather than looking at the electoral calculus, he was doing it for wider Western interests?
Well, it's for him and Number 10 to sort of work that out. But that absolutely has to be the right case. Put Britain and Britain's interests, and indeed Western interests, first as well. Which countries are that step forward to challenge the growing storm clouds that we see on the horizon? It's going to be Britain and America. And therefore, it's quite right that you've got one absolutely focused on these wider issues, and not caught up in domestic elections as well. So we get ours out the way, and then we're able to get back to work whilst the Americans then go to the polls.
But, you know, for months and months and months, the Labour Party has been saying, call the election, call the election, call the election. And last week they're saying, here's our election pledge cards. And it does almost look as if Rishi Sunak has been beaten down into the position of calling it after all.
You've followed enough elections to know that when the time comes, that's when the announcements are absolutely made. What we see today, if you're talking about an opportunity to present your stall, if you like, is the fact that inflation is now down to 2.3% from 11%. We've got migration starting to come under control. We're seeing growth, UK growth, better than some of our continental counterparts. So things are moving in a better direction. Now, it will take some time for that to resonate with the cost of living crisis and so forth. And I'll put my hand up. This is going to be the toughest election that I've ever experienced by some yard. You know, we didn't do well under Liz Truss. Let's get that on the table as well. But we were also tested in a way that would have actually challenged any government of the day because of COVID costing us £400 billion and indeed Ukraine as well. And the question the electorate will now ask themselves, now that we've moved into calmer political waters, fiscal responsibility has returned, who's best placed to take us now forward, both domestically and indeed internationally?
Well, you have already disproved something one of your colleagues said to me, a former cabinet minister, earlier today when I said, how many Conservative backbenchers want a July election? And he said 0.
Well, perhaps that's the case, because they would want to take it long.
You don't really want it.
Into November. But I've just spelled out what is better for Britain. And if it's better for Britain, the interests of Britain come above party, absolutely, and party politics as well. So much as we'd like to take it long, it would have been wrong to do so.
You're being very, very loyal, but you yourself would prefer to fight this in November, wouldn't you?
Well, everybody would, but
everybody would.
We're now getting around the table. It's now hypothetical. You know, the Prime Minister has gone to the King. He stood outside Number 10 and let the battle commence. So us discussing whether or not it should be November or even December, it's all academic now. The battle is now started.
You sound like ex-military man. You're enjoying the battle already. Can I be absolutely clear? You are going to stand again. You intend to be a member for Parliament in the next one as well.
Completely. And it's important that we have good parliamentarians, whatever the hue, whatever happens, return back to Parliament. We've got some tough decisions to make of where our country is going to go. And it's important that we make sure that we have the expertise there as well. But clearly, I want the Conservative Party to do well. If we show some unity, if we show some discipline, if we show some sense of purpose, which, yes, has also been missing, then we have an opportunity to actually close those polls. When I knock on the doors in Bournemouth, there isn't a love for Labour. I have to make that very, very clear. There's an anger against Conservatives. It's a frustration with how we've behaved. Get that right. Show some unity, and I think you'll see those polls close.